Welcome to Pulp Mythos. I'm Brian here with Spencer and Larry, and we're going to be discussing WandaVision episode number 3. They're finally titled now in color. If you've not subbed to the channel, please do so. We'll be doing these reviews every single weekend. Check out all the other content, hit the upvote, and let's start. I think it's Hydra. I'm going to go. Hydra's involved. We keep getting we had the Hydra soap commercial this week. We had the Hydra watch. We'll talk about at the end of the episode. There's some Hydra elements as well. I think it's Hydra doing it. Clearly, S.W.O.R.D is observing what's going on, but I think there's a Hydra element. And I started thinking after Infinity War, so they sort of defeated Hydra with the Civil War, and we haven't seen them. But we know if you read the comics, just because you take them out or you take out their leadership, they'll settle back and then they reform. With Endgame, Infinity War and Endgame, there was that 5-year break. What was Hydra? What was left of Hydra? What were they doing in that 5 years? And my assumption is whatever they were doing led to the events of WandaVision.
Yes, I don't disagree. There hasn't been any indication what they've been doing. They're such an important person. It's easy for them to build something around them. I don't know if they're the main focus or if they're, working for somebody else or, who knows. But I think that it would be easier for a television show since they're doing it as a streaming show as opposed to a movie, keeping a familiar villain instead of reestablishing a whole new villain and storyline. So I think that that's a pretty good guess.
Absolutely, because they established previously that Hydra isn't just an enemy force, that they fight G.I. Joe style. Hydra has infiltrated, government agencies and whatnot, and they have politicians, and so all that's not going to disappear overnight. And what would be the odds that they discovered everyone that was a part of Hydra? In fact, I think not only is it Hydra, but I think that the potential the S.W.O.R.D operator that we saw come out of the sewer in the bee suit, I think that is potentially, well, like you said, an agent of AIM, which now at this point probably works under S.W.O.R.D, but is also probably secretly been infiltrated by Hydra.
I agree with that, actually, completely. Yeah, I think, and I'm not saying, I know there's a lot of theories that, this character is that person, and I think that's all relevant and possible as well. I just think Hydra's the one mostly pulling the strings, and they've had several people involved in the organization over a long span of time, so it's very possible that other characters with powers and deep histories. Yeah. So, and the twins, Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver, their roots are Hydra as well. Hydra is absolutely a big part of this, and I'm very interested to see who's in charge of Hydra now and how it's operating. What were they doing in those 5 years? Are they aware? We know a Secret Invasion film or show or whatever is coming up. Are they aware that the Skrulls are there? How much do they know, and what are they doing with their knowledge? So I think that's going to be something that may spin out of this show as well. Are they aware of Doctor? They are aware of Doctor Strange. I just remember there was that line of dialogue where they bring up Doctor Strange. So they knew about Strange before he became the Sorcerer Supreme. That goes back to Civil War where his name is dropped. So they have a lot of knowledge, and clearly, like I said, they want these twins. That's my next part. Wanda has twins, her and Vision. Billy and Tommy, we know them as Wiccan and Speed in the comics. They possess the powers of, basically, Wiccan is
Witchcraft.
Scarlet Witch, and Quicksilver, Speed. They have similar powers. I believe this pregnancy was orchestrated to some degree, and for what purposes, not 100% sure. What do you guys think?
Well, I think for one that if it wasn't orchestrated, that it'll at the very least it'll be used because Hydra is, like you said, involved. The plan may have been to control Scarlet Witch and Vision, potentially brainwash them maybe, but if the twins weren't planned for, which they may or may not have been, then they certainly plan to use them now. And in the comics, it's different and it's under different circumstances and a different villain is involved. The twins disappear for a while, but a less comic booky way that would probably make more sense to general audiences would be, instead of, and I'm just going to say it, Mephisto, uh, who is the Marvel Comics equivalent of the devil, taking them, it would be for Hydra to do it. They find their kids, well, they take their kids, and that leads to a narrative where Vision and Wanda have a goal for, let's say, a season 2 or later in this season even. And not only does that make sense for this and tie that together neatly, it also, with the whole Hydra angle and AIM, the next show, correct me if I'm wrong, is going to be Captain America and the Winter Soldier, right?
I believe so, yeah.
So if it's Hydra and if it's AIM, and we're establishing that they're still there, and if we're seeing the genesis of AIM becoming its own sort of evil organization, that fits very neatly into a segue for Captain America and the Winter Soldier, because those are two very common enemies for that property.
The Baron Zemo will be in that show.
Yeah, in that case, we have a chance for Zemo, for a revived Strucker, or for the younger Struckers. Wasn't there Strucker twins, if I'm correct, also in that in modern time Captain America? Or
I think everybody had kids. Yeah, even Red Skull, and I was curious if some of those characters would make an appearance.
That just hit me, and I may be wrong about the Strucker twins, but if I am remembering something from an old comic, now this could be the genesis, because I imagine they will have likely accelerated aging in this environment too, just to speed things along. Hydra kidnaps Billy and Tommy. Billy and Tommy are raised as the Strucker twins. Perhaps by Baron Strucker, if he has his Marvel comic equivalent powers. They're brainwashed and raised and inducted into Hydra. And Wanda and Vision, part of what they're trying to do is to get their kids back and, to save them from this organization and to undo their brainwashing.
Yeah. Spencer, do you think, because one of the themes of Scarlet Witch, even in the comics and even in this, is suffering. She's always getting screwed over, and as a result, she lashes out. So do you think it makes sense, and I think it does, that the end of this show will not be happy, and that she will be stripped of her kids and all that kind of stuff, leading into Multiverse of Madness?
I think you're wrong. No, I'm just kidding. It is. It's been a running theme with her forever, and I don't think that they're going to do this. I think they may do a variation, just like the Civil War movie was like a variation of what they did in the comics. I think they may backtrack a little bit. I think that House of M may be involved in the next storyline. It may be what causes it, because we know that there's a lot of people signed up for the next Spider-Man movie. So the route that they're going now is the multiverse or whatever. So I think that because she can control reality, because of what happens, her having her kids taken would be something that would drive her just as to do something, crazy, to do something harmful and insane. Losing her kids would drive her to do that. At this point, she's already lost Vision once. We're not 100% sure what's going on right now with him, but she already lost him once. When she lost her brother, she lost her shit. So for her to lose her kids, to me, would be something strong enough to cause the House of M type event. Because if it hadn't already happened with what has happened to her previously, I can't think of anything else that would be traumatic enough to cause that, other than losing her kids.
Well, and in fact, given where they're going, I think not only may you be right, but we may get an event much like House of M, but it may have the opposite effect. It may be our triggering force for events like the multiverse. May get mutants because she needs family, because she's lost so much and so little is stable in her life. And we see that Wanda has these reality altering abilities to the point where it was clear that even if there is a controlling force or something else manipulating this, that she's able to push people out of that little pocket reality, which someone like I think some people were calling it a simulation, but I don't think it's a simulation because I believe that effect that we saw when she was pushed out. I had to go. I'm gonna have to go back and look at it, but it looked very much like the sort of magic you see in Doctor Strange when you saw her go through the barrier and everything.
Yeah, it's clearly I guess a better description would be a pocket universe.
Pocket dimension, yep.
Yeah, because it's it operates under its own rules, but you can enter and exit it from our world. Like you said, I'm sure they'll explain the details. Speaking of someone exiting, Geraldine, who we know is Monica Rambeau, is inside there, and the neighbors are talking to Vision, and they're aware that something's wrong about her. She's not from there. She's an outsider. And we notice the sword shield, not sword shield, but the sword symbol, excuse me, that she wears around her neck. The assumption being, I think, that she's an agent. She went in on a mission and now she's been expelled. Now, and if you disagree with that, I want to hear your opinion. But the coolest part about all that, the coolest part of the episode, in my opinion, was, and I've heard some people saying the show is not working for them, and I completely feel them on that. But then you get moments like, dropping, Quicksilver's death because of Ultron. And, those moments are sort of cool because it grabs you and you're like, ooh, okay, we're talking about this. We're doing this. But after that, it pissed off Wanda, and then, she got rid of her, which leads me also to question, how much is Wanda aware of what's happening or not happening? I didn't think she was aware of anything last episode. Now I'm changing my mind on that.
Well, I think too that I'm not 100% sure that she is fully aware of what's going on. However, oh Jesus, but they
Cool.
when you I was both of them. They act independently. One starts barking, the other one starts trying to eat whoever it is. But I forgot what I was saying. Oh yeah, I think that when you look at what happened with when Geraldine got expelled, there was it looked like a bunch of towers with like a force field type thing. Like you could see, it looked like a microwave or a heat wave or something. So I think that this is kind of like a pocket thing, but I don't think that it's in its own reality. I think that it's almost like a Truman Show type thing. And I don't know why, but this would lead back to what we were saying about the whole Hydra controlling them and trying to basically get the kids. So I think that what happened when Geraldine got expelled adds volition to your theory that this is all a setup to basically get her to have kids and steal those kids. Because to me, how powerful she is, if she was aware of what was going on, it would not be hard for her to escape or to figure it out. I think that something's still off with her and she's not 100% sure what's going on yet. She hasn't quite figured it out.
Yeah, and one theory I have about this is that Wanda may have complete control over everything, but she's like we mentioned, her mental state, hasn't been the greatest in Marvel, given the things that has happened to her in the comics and in the movies as well. So she seems very in denial about things. She seems to not want to approach topics, and we've all had traumas in the past, and it's like sometimes some of those are so bad you just don't want to approach it. So what she does instead, since she's made up her own little reality, is she rewinds that back, wipes someone's memory of it. So what I think happened in the first place is that she maybe did move to this town. Of course it wasn't like it is now, just probably a modern day normal town, or so it seemed. Potentially there were Hydra agents there already, is the thing. Like, Hydra was already watching her because she was already a Hydra asset for one. Like Baron Strucker already, monitored and had the twins. And I'm just going to say, for the movies, and for them to be like in the movies, for her and her brother to have been a Hydra experiment, Hydra certainly let them go awfully easy, didn't they? And, it's like, from everything I know about Hydra in the comics and, the amount of espionage and experiments that they were doing in the show, they typically don't let go of their assets that easy. So chances are she may have moved there, and all her neighbors and everyone that lives in that town, they may be Hydra. with I imagine the exception of Agatha for the reason that we mentioned last week. Agatha was probably legitimately a supportive friend that moved there with her. Like, and I imagine Agatha is a tie to even like Doctor Strange, given the fact that if she's the character we think she is, then well, she's a witch, and so she may be a tie to a Doctor Strange style of magic. That may be why Agatha seems more aware of what's going on than anybody else, and it seems more like she's playing a role and not that she's necessarily having her mind wiped every time like everybody else. She probably has something protecting her from that, if anything.
Speaking of
Well, you
Strange,
look at.
oh, go ahead.
I was saying, remember the neighbor was using a hedge clipper and started cutting through brick and really didn't think nothing of it. And we were talking about in the last episode where they almost get in like a fog and they don't really know what's going on. It always happens when when Wanda's uncomfortable or something's going on. So she's still able to. So regardless of whether there's a pocket reality, whether she created this, whether Hydra is trying to keep tabs on her, and she's whatever the reason is, everyone is still affected by her mood, and she's affecting that reality in that time. And I don't know who's pulling the strings or who's trying to manipulate her or why just yet, but she is 100% in control of everything and everyone in there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But I have a feeling that there's one person that's immune to that, and I think it's Agatha. I think she's just playing that role so that Wanda doesn't push her out of that pocket dimension because she's actively trying to help her to some degree.
You mentioned Doctor Strange, and I was thinking, and I don't think this is an issue yet, but when one of the complaints or things that comes up whenever one of these Marvel films comes out, you always say, okay, we've established all these characters, they have powers, etc. We have Shield, we have an organization, and fighting bad. So if something occurs, you're going to be like, well, where's so and so? Why aren't they there helping? In this particular case, the one character that does come to mind, it's like, well, why wouldn't they be there? Is Doctor Strange. Potentially, wouldn't he know this was going on? Would he sense it? He's the Sorcerer Supreme. It looks like there's something magical-ish maybe happening. I don't know if there in fact is a witch there. He would seem to know that. Now we know this leads into a film, so maybe it's going to address that directly. Do you think he'll be in this show? That's the long version of what I'm trying to get to. Do you think Strange will surprisingly appear at the end of the show leading to the Multiverse of Madness film? We know this leads into his film, but do you think the character himself will make an appearance?
I don't see why not. Like I think that it would help tie things into the movie, but to me it depends on what they're trying to do. If they're trying to separate kind of the TV universe from the movie universe, then there would be no reason to have him. However, if they're trying to basically tie them all together, which it seems they are, because they're using the actors and actresses from
because she'll be in it. She's going to be the co-lead in that film.
That's what I'm saying. So if they're trying to tie them all together, which it seems they are, I don't see why he wouldn't make at least an appearance.
Absolutely, and I think it'll be the sort of thing that we will see him towards the end, because my assumption is that, given the fact that, Agatha is likely who we think she is, I imagine she reports to Strange, because in the comics she's not like an antagonistic force. She's a good character. So chances are she's there on behalf of Strange, and that is the answer to the question: why is he not there himself? It's like, because he sent someone. He sent one of their oldest, most powerful witches to handle it. So I imagine the fallout from this may lead to that. Who's to say that creating this pocket dimension and then her state getting worse, may create a scenario where where the Multiverse of Madness, where it is Wanda's fault, like her having a break creates a rift between universes, opens up a rift, and is partially her fault, which is why she's there along for the ride in that movie. And hell, this thing may be a construct created by Strange or Agatha in order to help Wanda get her head right so that she doesn't affect the rest of the multiverse.
We have confirmation. There was speculation. I forgot to mention this earlier. I was going to. There was speculation w- of where this took place in the timeline. Some people thought this may have been pre-Endgame. Disney came out and confirmed, no, in fact, this is post-Endgame. This happens after the last Avengers film. So that's confirmed now. I noticed they were showing more footage. Like Disney sort of a lot of the I guess I don't say complaint, but complaints or questions that people had. They sort of addressed it all this week and was like, no, it is post Endgame. Check it out. There's some speculation now that and I want to get your guys' thoughts. Do you think next week's episode will be completely out of the bubble? So some are speculating that Geraldine getting thrown out and the ending of the show, her being outside, maybe we'll pick up from her point of view and get some backstory as to what's going on before going back in. I think that'd be a cool storytelling thing, and it would also um, help with people who are a little more not into this, this style of storytelling. But what do you guys think? You think they're going to do that, or would you like that, or not like that?
If they skip to that without ever doing a Friends sitcom 90s thing, I'll be
Well, I think
pissed.
they'll go back to. I think they'll go back. Yeah.
Okay, as long as they don't skip that, I'll be all right. That'd be okay. But see, the thing is that to me, regardless of whether or not people are into this, everybody will watch it by the end of it anyway. So, like, even if people aren't tuning in week to week, by the time it's all over and you got a full 4 hour movie or storyline, everybody will watch it because they know it's going to be vital to the next movie or the next thing that's coming out. So I don't think that it's going to hurt their brand any at all for them to do it the way they have been. Because personally, regardless of what critics or whoever's bashing it, because I don't put too much stake in what the internet says about shit. I kind of look at it for myself, but I've enjoyed it a lot, and it's funny the throwbacks to all the different eras of sitcoms is it's made me laugh, but they've also put enough mystery and intrigue into it. I'm trying to still figure it out. Just like we spent the first, 20, 30 minutes of this being like, well, what if it's this? Larry's long theory about Hydra being involved. Like those are things that are brought up with little hints that they're giving us. And I like that. So to me, I have zero issues with it. They are eventually going to go to the real world because they've showed it in the previews, but I don't think that they need to necessarily do it right away.
I feel, and hopefully I'm wrong because I think I said it in our first recording of this. I want Disney to feel free to experiment a little, and this was a good experiment, but I feel like they will see a dip, and maybe less people will be willing to jump on this show from the beginning. Well, at least until this season concludes, and when it does, when and other people want to jump in after 3 episodes of sitcom parodies. uh I'm curious whether audiences will still tune in, because I mean there's that disconnect between what they're expecting or hoping for and what they're presented with, and I think that's the real problem, and honestly what Disney was worried about, which is why we got that preview that showed a lot later in the season. But I hope they'll tune in. I hope people will continue to tune in, and I hope from here on out that we can be more experimental with some shows, and because I certainly would hate for this to dissuade them from doing something like the potential She-Hulk legal drama that it seems like we're going to get here. Because I want that
Better
as
get
it
it.
is. Oh, we better get that. If
Yeah.
if we don't get that, I'm going to be pretty angry.
But I look at it like this. Look what Guardians of the Galaxy did. Look what Thor did. Like the aspects of Marvel that were never really explored that much in movies until that. They spent a lot of time establishing those kind of things. And then even the Strange movie, experimenting with the cosmic part of or the magical part of Marvel. I think that this is just another way for them to kind of do that. And I have zero issues, like, with them experimenting because I've enjoyed it. Now, some people haven't, but I think that a lot of people go in thinking that this is what it needs to be, or it's not superhero-y enough. Like, I don't know, but I've enjoyed it because I've enjoyed the storytelling and I've enjoyed the acting. The actors in it are all amazing. So unlike some of the other shows we review, This to me has still got me intrigued, and I still care. So each week I'm excited to see what the next story is.
Yeah, and I agree with you with what you said a few moments ago that even if the audiences drop off in these next few weeks, there will eventually will go back and watch it, especially when it finishes and you get to the finale and people are like, "Oh, this happened, that happened." I think people are going to go back and marathon it so that they'll be ready for Multiverse of Madness. So that's something that and this whole streaming wars going on, that's going to be another piece of the puzzle where Disney's going to sit back and say, okay, even if viewership drops off early on, it may pick up heavily later, or we'll get a lot of people come. Like Cobra Kai is a great example. There's a show that has grown its audience over the years that it's been out, and it started strong, but it got stronger. And people, there are people right now going back and watching season 1, season 2. So I think there's potential for that with a show like this.
Yeah, I agree. And I've watched all of Cobra Kai too, and I've enjoyed it a lot. And the acting in that is far inferior to the acting in this, but it's just fun. It is what it is, and it's a great storytelling. It's done well. It's all the reminiscence, and you're flashing back, and it's great for what it is. But to me, this show is taking a similar approach where it's kind of making you think back. There's a lot of old sitcoms that people used to watch on Nick at Night and those kind of things. And that's not going to play to every audience as far as Marvel's broad audience is concerned, but it's an interesting take on a superhero.
And also, let's not forget everything that the House of Mouse does is for merchandise. Everything. Yeah. And a show like this, even if it's a lukewarm beginning, a show like this is going to spin out a lot of merchandise that I think people would be into. And what I'm referring to is the outfits they're wearing, and I could see backpacks with a 70s flair to it that says WandaVision on it. You know what I mean? I'm just thinking of merchandise possibilities.
Lunchboxes,
like
those old lunchboxes. Yeah,
that little helicopter toy from a couple episodes. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of little things that I think they'll be able to, maybe not immediately, but over the next several years, WandaVision has potential there because the fact that it's sort of jumping through all these different decades of entertainment. So things like that too, I think,
Speaking of the aesthetics of the show and merchandising and everything, anybody else think that Vision's human form looks like a drug-free Gary Busey?
This particular episode, I
with
was
the hair and
laughing a
everything.
little bit. Yeah, it was funny.
I think error added to that this episode.
What is that actor's name?
Paul Bettany.
Yeah, I'm so happy that he's, when he took on the original, he was just Jarvis, and it was like, yeah, you're just going to hear his voice. And now, the fact that it started as that and it spun into this, major job for him, that's pretty cool.
I really like him as an actor, so I was pretty excited. It's not one of my favorite, but it is a very fun movie. Is it A Knight's Tale?
Yeah.
Chaucer.
That's a film of a generation, sir.
Dude, I
love that movie.
But I've seen him in so many things, and there hasn't been anything that I've seen him in that I've disliked. Like, he's just a good actor. And like you said, I was super excited when they went from him being Jarvis to actually embodying Vision. And to see him be able to do this, I enjoy it.
I mean, to imagine getting the call, yeah, you're just going to do some voice work, basically. And then it's like, oh, now you're doing films. Now you're on a show. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, one too. It's like, oh, you voice Robert Downey Jr.'s AI that is basically his automated house and whatnot, and he hears you in his helmet and everything. It's like, all right, Bit Park, run a few lines. Like, oh, you're an Avenger now. Yeah, you're one of our major stars, and like you said, from that to this show, it's like, good God, talk about looking out.
Yeah, a hell of a gig. Well, sirs, I'm out of notes. Do y'all have anything else you want to discuss regarding WandaVision episode 3, now in color?
No, I was. It was playing in my car because I was watching on my lunch break. I was driving home and it just started playing, and I was really confused for a second because it, it was playing like the theme song. I was like, "What the hell is going on?" I didn't because it's different every episode, but it, and I've enjoyed that too. How each episode has a different intro.
That's
I,
great, actually. Yeah.
I'm curious though if once they shift out of the sitcom intro, what the intro is going to be, and that intrigues me a little bit also. But no, I don't have anything else. That was it.
Yeah, yeah, same here. And I thought that was very cool. And I'm hoping that also the next door neighbor. I'm hoping that he's someone significant too. Once we figure out who everyone actually is, and we get out of this little pocket dimension and everything, and you know, and I'm hoping that the fact that this doesn't have the traditional Marvel. I tend to call them barbecue movies. Barbecue movie feel that you get because you can. This is something you can because usually Marvel properties are. It's something you can turn on during a barbecue and you can half pay attention and it's still good. You got the gist of what it is. You know, I'm hoping because it's not that people don't tune out. That they give this a chance and once again that we get that She-Hulk show that I know at least Brian, you and I are looking forward to very much.
Yes. Yes. 100%. If they do it right, it will be my favorite Marvel show. So yeah. Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll be back next week. And yeah, thanks.
Bye.
Bye.